go. All right. Oh, Guten Tag, Solomon, you majestic Welsh beast. I mean that in every essence of
Das ist gut.
being Welsh and a beast. Das ist gut. Ja. Das ist
gut.
Whoa, very good. Whoa, you heard it from the girl who knows the German.
Sie Deutsch?
The German, the Deutsch. Ja.
Ein bisschen?
Ein bisschen. Ein bisschen.
Ein bisschen. Come on.
Oh, I thought it might be a Coach guest stream.
See,
look at that. Like, people get amped for when you come on here.
I really look forward
I get
to
amped
this.
personally because, you know, I get to hang out with Coach.
And your best friend. I mean, you can't go much better than that.
It's true. It's very true. It's kind of how we operate, how we roll. But, yeah, no, we're here. It's Friday. It's the end of the week. You made it through another week, so good on you. Keeping on up. Now you can finally, if you've been hard at work, you finally get to catch a breather. To be able to just relax, enjoy, take a sip of coffee.
I can always tell because the stream is later than normal.
What are you trying to imply there? Oh, yes, we are going to hydrate. Thank you. And did you notice, Solomon? Now we have cool, like, alerts now, finally, for that. And so,
right.
we got that. There we go. Good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. Imagine all those investments that you put into Graphic Word might have, pushed us. No, that wasn't an additional investment. That was just...
The reason we were late, though, is because of technical difficulties.
Yes, technical difficulties.
This time was being a bit stubborn.
For some reason, okay, I'm stretching. And there's the floor. And then, it's so cute and cheesy. Not a problem. Okay. We are married.
Good thing I like
we
cheese.
have a license to be cheesy. It doesn't mean, though, that we have a cheese factory license, though.
No.
So and I don't want to go there. I'm not doing it.
You told her when I put in her vows.
Okay, why do you tell me that? Have I told that? You need to share.
Okay, so in our wedding vows, we wrote part of it and did the typical for better, for worse, rich or poor, all that kind of stuff. But the part that I wrote, I said that I accepted every part of him, including the nerd part. So that was right in there from day one.
It's an important feature to have in there. Yeah. Just saying. It's
Everybody
very
laughed
important.
Everyone
laughed.
Yep, that's appropriate.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It's a lot to take in. I get it. I'm kidding. I'm good.
It can be at times.
I can be a lot to take in, especially when nerds. No, Solomon. Developed nerd because
it's been a process.
So right from the get-go, I'll tell you. Can I tell you Coach's journey to liking anime? Because that was a bit of a fun time. At first, when we were dating, we weren't even engaged, I wanted to show Coach my favorite anime. Because that just makes sense. You do that. You invest in people by sharing the things that you like. And you hope they don't squish on it and squash hard. The first episode was a little rough. The second episode was like, okay, yeah, I just can't get into it.
But it's funny.
However, now after how many years since when we tried to do that?
At least.
That was probably 15 years ago.
Well, we got,
Yeah, 15 years ago. 15 years later, Coach got into Sword Art Online was your intro anime that... Actually, sorry, even before Sword Art, it was Fate Zero.
Yep, and Spy X Family a bit too.
And then Spy X Family, and then Sword Art Online was the big one that you really liked.
Yeah.
And then, oh, hello. We have a Central that's on the call with us too.
Oh.
And then off of that, Assassination Classroom.
That was a good one.
And we've been watching other anime, and it's growing in repertoire.
And now Bleach. I got into Bleach. Finally.
She got back into Bleach to give it a shot, and she's like, "Oh shoot, this is good."
It's definitely an acquired taste. It's fine talking to your nieces because
they hate it.
They're like, oh, why do you ever watch anime? And then like your nephews are like, oh, it's really cool and that kind of stuff. And I'm just like observing it and laughing, and they're like, what? I'm like, it's an acquired taste. If you find somebody who has the right characteristics and the right personality for what you're wanting in a future spouse or whatever, then their preferences, their likes and dislikes,
they're a little bit easier to take in,
yeah,
because you want to be on it too. So
because it's the principles that need to be the same. Like they say opposites attract, but it's often similar worldviews or principles or whatever that are foundational, and if those are different, then that can be a problem. But yes, personalities, I would agree.
Yeah,
because we certainly were quite opposite when we started dating.
Very different. But now, like, there's stuff that I can talk with Coach that's anime related, or like it was interesting watching your take on watching it this time when it was watching the Shikai getting revealed, or like the Bankai of, and you're just like, oh shoot, things are gonna get like hecka intense right now, and like she got in on it, and I'm watching it, I'm like, now you're getting it, like now you get the vibe of what Bleach is throwing down here. And like there were some things that were comments that I was saying when I first watched Bleach, and it was just like, yep, yeah, like it was really cool. It became a common language that we now have, that we know and stuff like that, and could then, like, now Coach knows why I like Ichigo so much. Not just because he's the main character, but like why he fights, why he does what he does, and some of the inner struggle that he's had to work through, and some of that, and it's really cool.
Yeah. Plus
she's my Rukia, so like, you know, and yes, I am arguing the way Bleach ends, those of you who have read the manga, it's wrong. Tight Kubo, I don't know what you were thinking, man, but no
spoilers though.
Don't know what you were thinking. I love you, man, but like
all right, so
I'm gonna cry a little bit now.
Tangent's over.
Yes, no, 100%. So guys, again, whole purpose of what we do for Nerds in the Word, and actually the whole purpose of what we do for Graphic Word, is a twofold kind of focus. One is creating this awesome community and investing in you guys, investing in each other, investing into the community, because let's be honest, nerds have a difficult time. And yes, Solomon's already throwing down the Discord link, so you know and it's YouTube. Good. That's and awesome. YouTube. So then you never feel like you're alone, because lots of nerds feel that way. Lots of nerds, and I can vouch on that. You feel like, man, does anyone see me? Does anyone care? Or even do the things that I care make it like, why do I care about this? Like, no one else seems to care. And I know that was my struggle in high school. Like, my locker had tons of pictures of superhero movies and all that, and I loved it because I was like, this is my zone, this is the thing. And I remember even my friends were like, dude, like,
not me,
get a life. Yeah, Coach was one of the few, and she wasn't even like a real tight friend at that time initially. But she's just like, like that's kind of cool. And it's like,
if that was an indicator, I don't know.
Say what? But it was different, right? Because like, and I would transfer each of these pictures to each of my lockers each year, and like treat them like they were gold, even though they were rip-outs from like the Cineplex magazine. Like really, it didn't, nothing amazing about them. But that's just,
it had value to you, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't think just nerds. I mean, we're all nerds in our own way, because in our opinion, nerd is somebody who is passionate about something and like delves into it. So it can be a number of different topics, but we often feel alone and isolated. And so one of the main points of Graphic Word is to let you know that you're not alone, that there is a community that whatever you're facing, even if it's not something we've all personally gone through or experienced, we can still support each other and be there.
Yeah. And so that's what it's there for. We're a community. We help on each other. Solomon has been an awesome support for me at times when I've been feeling down. And Solomon, I still really appreciate your AI art stuff. That's
he talks about it all the time.
Legit, I show it off to Coach and the kids, and even the kids are like, dang, that's so cool. So
you get giddy about it. It's kind of funny.
It's cool.
It's cute.
It's a support.
I'm not gonna lie.
And plus Solomon and I have a lot of common interests and a lot of same nerdum, and so it's good. But the other part that we try and encourage, not just in the community, because it's good to have a community, but then what are we doing to progress ourselves? How do we develop ourselves? And so we always offer a level up component to whatever we do, whether that's our blog, whether that's our time in Nerd in the Word, or our Nuggets stream, or Tom, or down the road, our anime group that we're looking at starting mid-February, which is exciting to do that. We'll be sharing more on that later, or another time. But we want to level up. We want to grow. And part of that growth is challenging us. Part of that growth is being that encouragement. Hey, how are you doing? Mm-hmm. How is that growth happening? And that's growth individually, but also spiritually, because we see the ultimate level up is when we have a relationship with God. Yeah. And that's why we sit in the Bible. That's why we chew on that.
Sorry.
I'm not going to sit on my iPad, because that's a bad choice.
Brain works.
Bad idea. But we want to meditate on this, because it's not just like, oh look, I can just be better as an individual, but like, how can I love on my wife? How can I love on the people around me? And ultimately, how can I love on God, who first showed love to me? And
it's leveling up in all areas of our life, like spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally. I think that's important to have that balance.
Yeah.
And so, ironically, there are some challenges that are thrown your way to do certain physical things to level up in that way, but yeah, and we work through that. We process that together, but so ultimately it's about growth.
Yeah. And just as we were talking to our kids, Kaizen, the 1%, 1% that we can just do just to improve, just that little bit. And some of you might be like, oh, 1% is barely anything. It's like, that's the whole point. It's just enough that you're proactively doing something.
Well, it's equivalent to baby steps, right? Like, it's like you're not getting far.
No.
If you focus on each step, or each percent, you're like, what difference is this making?
Right.
But it's later that you look back and you're like, oh, okay, that actually is significant progress.
Well, and 10 of those is 10%. Right? Yeah. And like, it builds up over time. The key is consistency. The key is just the effort to be able to do that. And Coach and I can be really hard on ourselves on some of that, where we can feel like, did we even make progress today? One evidence of progress was our hallway last night. If you know what it's like to have kids in your life, things get chaotic, and you just want rest where you can get it.
Yeah.
And so our hallway was notorious for just having a slew of different things. Even
going
the stairs was like a ton of gathering
piles, right? It's like, oh, we'll put this on the stairs to take up later, but then later never happened. And so it just expanded. So like, we've got 12 steps, and at least half of them.
Oh, like
8 maybe of the 12 steps. No, it's exactly 12. I kind of OCD in that way.
Okay.
But and Hannah does the same thing, which is funny. But anyways, like 8 of the 12 steps were half covered, and I'm like, this is awful. And it took for my sister to say something multiple times. I'm like, yep, that needs to be dealt with. And so we worked on it with the kids, and getting them involved in it. I think it was good, because it's taking onus on them, like their own responsibility.
Yeah.
And so but just small things like that make such a huge difference.
Yeah. So it's working on. I have over 14 nieces and nephews, so family visits are chaotic as heck. Kids are certainly.
Oh, there's something.
Solomon, I feel for that.
Wow, that's a
I don't
lot.
have that many nieces and nephews, but they now have significant others
or
wife or soon to be.
Right? So the 7 of them, 8 now with Lily.
8.
So eventually,
And then you times that by 2.
Yeah.
16.
And then Max and Ree might have kids eventually.
And then when they have kids.
Oh, it's gonna be amazing. It's awesome. But yeah, it's definitely coming from one sister to like your family with 3 older brothers and their wives and kids. It's amazing. It's chaotic, but it certainly is something.
Chaos. It's just chaos.
Beautiful chaos.
And now we're going to bring order back from the chaos.
Because finally going to do this. God brings order. And, so there we go.
Woo, chaos. You are too kind, Solomon.
Oh, what is life without chaos?
We're supposed to be imitators of God, and God brought peace in the midst of chaos, and we need to bring His peace into the world around us.
Because only He can calm our storms.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the wink, wink, nudge, nudge. This passage is already going to be doing more of that.
Good. So, shall we take
let's
turns?
dive in. All right. So, grab your Bibles, grab your digital devices, and we are going to be diving into Psalm 44, aptly titled for today, Victory and Defeat with God. And it's supposed to be a little bit like, what do you mean?
It's kind of, I don't know, oxymoronic a little bit.
A little. And it's kind of supposed to be that way.
Very
so
cool.
Let's chew on this. Let's get into the steak for today. You want to trade off on verse reading? Cool.
Section by section?
Oh, you want to do it? Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Sounds good. All right. Oh God, we have heard it with our own ears. Our ancestors have told us of all you did in their day, in days long ago. You drove out the pagan nations by your power and gave all the land to our ancestors. You crushed their enemies and set our ancestors free. They did not conquer the land with their swords. It was not their strong arm, their own strong arm, that gave them victory. It was your right hand and strong arm, and the blinding light from your face that helped them, for you loved them.
You are my king and my God. You command victories for Israel. Only by your power can we push back our enemies. Only in your name can we trample our foes. I do not trust in my bow. I do not count on my sword to save me. You are the one who gives us victory over our enemies. You disgrace those who hate us. Oh God, we give you glory. We give glory to you all day long and constantly praise your name.
Okay, we need to pause because there's a little interlude. So I
that.
know, right?
Maybe
It's because it's highlighted,
Oh.
then it darkens. I don't get it. Fix it there. Okay. Hi, Fireball. Thanks for hopping on. Okay. But now you have tossed us aside in dishonor. You no longer lead our armies to battle. You make us retreat from our enemies and allow those who hate us to plunder our land. You have butchered us like sheep and scattered us among the nations. You sold our precious people for a pittance, making nothing on the sale. You let our neighbors mock us. We are an object of scorn and derision to those around us. You have made us the butt of their jokes. They shake their heads at us in scorn. We can't escape the constant humiliation. Shame is written across our face. All we hear are the taunts of our mockers. All we see are our vengeful enemies.
All this has happened, though we have not forgotten you. We have not violated your covenant. Our hearts have not deserted you. We've not strayed from your path. Yet you have crushed us in the jackal's desert home. You have covered us with darkness and death. If we had forgotten the name of our God or spread our hands in prayer to foreign gods, God would surely have known it, for he knows the secrets of every heart. But for your sake, we are killed every day. We are being slaughtered like sheep.
Wake up, O Lord. Why do you sleep? Get up. Do not reject us forever. Why do you look the other way? Why do you ignore our suffering and oppression? We collapse in the dust, lying face down in the dirt. Rise up. Help us. Ransom us because of your unfailing love. Man, these psalms keep getting lighter and lighter, right? You know, it's like more
funny.
chill vibes that are going on each and every time.
last night at my ladies' Bible study, we were talking about Psalms came up, and people have very strong opinions about whether it's good or bad. Like, some people do not like Psalms because it's poetry. There's no direct answer. Like,
I take it your sister's one of
Oh,
the
absolutely.
peeps that just like, what's the point of Psalms? It
I
just
didn't
keeps on
have-
repeating.
I
It's
didn't
annoying.
say anything, but Ricky Ann and Laura were discussing it. And so I just had to keep my mouth shut because I laughed, because I'm like, I know their personality is enough to know, I'm like, yep, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, like, you're right, it's not black and white. It's not like David cries out for help and God answers. It like often spreads between songs and
You're legendary.
Legendary.
Oh, wow. We're both legend. Wow. Fireball. That's nice of you. Cool. No, sorry. I totally interrupted.
that's okay. But like, just, I think there's something beautiful about the Psalms in that there are not answers, because often in life, when certain stuff hits the fan, like, we don't have solutions other than the fact that God is sovereign. He is faithful despite how we feel, despite our circumstances, despite our brokenness. Because even if we're not doing anything wrong, our world is still sinful and very broken and depraved in a lot of ways. And so the earth itself is suffering from sin. And there's consequences, and we often get affected by other people's sins and have no control over it. And yeah, so I don't know. I like the Psalms, but I'm not sure where you guys are at with that, if you like the Psalms or not. But
Yeah, throw it down in the chat.
Yeah.
Do you guys like Psalms, and why do you like it? Or if you don't like it, why don't you like it?
because we all have different personalities and different preferences, and there's nothing wrong with that, because scripture is scripture, and different parts are meant for different things.
Well, and we've been going through Psalms now. This is the 44th chapter. And again, we are almost at the third point. The third.
And,
so
like,
there's still a journey going
Some
on.
of them are
here.
going to take longer because they're longer ones. Like, I don't think we're going to do
Psalm
I was
119
gonna
is
say,
not
we're
going to
gonna do
be...
that in the whole.
Psalm 19 would be a marathon
119.
stream if we're going to be doing it. Yeah, Psalm 119 would be a marathon stream. You would have to dedicate... That's...
I'm like, okay, Mom and Dad,
Woo.
take the kids for the day.
That's it. Just we're sitting for now, instead of an hour stream, it's 3 hours minimum.
At least.
At least. And that might be just reading it. I'm kidding.
Okay,
I'm
some
kidding.
of us read faster, okay?
But I find it... Okay, so let's break it down in the process of what's going on, because this isn't David, this is the descendants of Korah, and we've been in the descendants of Korah since like earlier, like Psalm 41 onward has been this kind of 41 or 40 no sorry 42,
Yeah, I was going to say, it wasn't. Yeah.
because Psalm 41 was also a Psalm of David.
Yeah, and Psalm 40 was as well.
Well,
No.
really, you
I
sure
know.
your favorite Psalm, like, you sure? But
Pretty positive.
we're working through this, right? So like we're going through as the descendants of Korah. We're processing. Thank you.
Yeah, gotcha.
We're processing this together because they're clearly reflective on this, right? They start off with a reflection of like how God has showed up, how God is powerful, He is almighty, and then off of the almighty power in working in the past, the reminder that they are not to be dependent on their own self, but to be reliant on God. Mm-hmm. So they're creating an argument case, right? Like, God, you have done this in the past. You have told us not to be focused on our own might, our own strength. Then we hit through what is absolutely sucky territory, where it's like, but now we're kind of like thrown out. We kind of just suck. Other nations are mocking us.
We're doing everything right, but yet
Yeah.
there's still.
Well, and that's
defeat.
their argument, right? Like, their argument in the last bit is like, all this has happened though we have not forgotten you. We have not violated your covenant. So like, they're having a head scratch moment of like, A plus B equals C, right?
No, it does not.
But it's not though, because we're doing A, but you're not doing B. So like, what's going on here? Like, where did we mess up in the equation here? And I think we've brought we keep bringing this up, right? We like to put God in a box.
It's so much easier.
It is so much
For
easier, right?
us.
Because we go, okay, God, I scratch your back, you're gonna now do this part, right? Like, hey, it's like if I do that with Coach, right? So if I come up and I just think, well, if I want some snuggle time, then I might do the dishes more often, or I might wrangle the kids for bedtime more often. I might take the kids out more often, so that Coach is in a better mode, and she'll be like, oh, he's so sweet, he's so amazing, oh, I just want to cuddle and like stuff, and just like it can be that way, and it's often thrown out there.
Conditional love.
But it can be like I hate saying this, but most marital retreats or stuff like that goes, gents, if you want that extra cuddle or extra snuggle,
intimacy begins in the kitchen.
Right, and
there's a point to it.
There is a point, and it's fair. But then the problem is it creates the relationship to be transaction focused,
transactional rather than grace based.
Yeah, it's not me then going even the step further and going like, hey, so like what's going on? Like, where are you at? And taking the time to actually invest in it. It's like, no. I did A and B and C and D, so you better meet me at A and stuff like that.
Along those lines, like even the whole, I've heard it learn to outserve each other. I'm like, but then still, it's a competition.
It is.
It's still, well, if I do this, then you better do this for me.
Right.
And I think you're right. We do that.
You weigh the scales.
This doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense, Central. Like, I get it, right? And like, I get where the transaction makes sense that you kind of weigh it out.
Because that's where our brains work as well.
Yeah. Because we want to balance it. We want to go, well, I put this much effort.
We want to be able to understand it and comprehend and have control over it.
Right. But that's not how God works.
And it's not how we should work either in our relationships.
Right. But that's a hard thing to get out of.
Yeah.
Because we are just so so fixated on it and so accustomed to it that we just go, well, this is just how it's going to go. And that's clearly, this is what Psalms is struggling through.
We're very, ritualistic, like the Israelites were as a whole, because they had the law, they had that connection with God that no other nation had. Mm-hmm. But it often got stretched and added up to, and so, something that was this is now this and this and this. And so their relationship with God was very transactional in a lot of ways.
But also it wasn't. Like, that's the thing that they don't really kind of dive into this, right? Because it talks about how God has showed up at different times. So if we're looking at the breakdown of verses 1 to 3 is God's effort. So I'll reread it just so that you guys can catch along with this, right? O God, we have heard it with our own ears. Our ancestors have told us of all you did in their day. In days long ago.
So not necessarily presently.
Well, but that's being taught. And that's not bad, right? Because that's part of what God told the people to be doing. That the reason why there's festivals that they have at different times of the year is to be reflecting on this, specifically Passover, the most important festival to really remember their freedom and stuff like that, is being brought in there so that they remember how God showed up, how God is faithful, how God is the sustainer. And so was their case? You drove out the pagan nations by your power and gave all the land to our ancestors. So God showed up. God did some amazing things. You crushed their enemies and set our ancestors free. So again, that would be Egypt. Yeah. That's Exodus. This could technically even be around Judges. Because the freedom of oppression from other nations that would come in. Now this is of course under the cycle of Israel would sin, do bad things, so then they get subjugated, and so then they call out for God to bring a savior, and then God does through a judge, but then they go back at it, right? But they see God's hand in the midst of that. They see God's provision of safety. So set our ancestors free. They did not conquer the land with their swords. Okay, so they already know the onus. God showed up on this. This is very much like Joshua kind of language, because when they did do it with their own swords, it didn't work. In fact, that's when if you read Joshua, the only time the Israelites saw casualties was when it was their effort. if it was God who
Yeah,
took the
when
charge
they-
and they trusted and leaned on it,
when they did it on their own without like taking God into it or without trusting his leading and direction.
that's when they not only had their own casualties, but they actually got defeated.
Yeah.
And Joshua gets reprimanded for that. And then because of that process, he learns, he sees, and so then he only goes where God tells him to go. And from there on, no casualties. And it's complete victory. It's not like a slight victory or getting trounced. They are, like, God steps in and gets the job done.
It's not European football where a tie is still a win.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. But, like, it's not on their own strong arm that gave them
It's not
victory.
their own strong arm, yeah.
It was your right hand, God's right hand, and strong arm. And the blinding light from your face that helped them, for you love them. I love that. Just like the sheer presence of God.
Wasn't it in Joshua that the sun stayed up all day so that they could defeat?
It was so Joshua was there helping with Moses holding the rod over, and that was the Amalekites that they were fighting.
Yeah, and so like the sun stayed up all day.
Yeah.
And like historically accurate.
Or stood still. Yes. No. Yes, you're right. It was Joshua who prayed specifically because the Amalekites would have an upper hand in nighttime battle, is what I believe was the case. And so then he prayed, and like God's like, I'm gonna hold the sun still, and which is cool. Satellites have proven that there was a day where the sun actually stayed like in this area, like light was going on. They could track it to where it's just like it stopped. It's like, holy shoot, like science.
So
just
the blinding
proved.
light. I mean, like think about it at nighttime when it's supposed to be dark.
Oh yeah.
To their enemy's advantage, it was not.
Yeah.
Like
Well, in the sheer presence of some of these, like God shows up in a giant tornado, and just like obliterates this whole mass of people. Like the sheer face of God, the presence of what he can do is just mind-blowing. So then of course the follow-up, you are my king and my God. You command victories over, like, for Israel. Like,
only by your power.
That's the conclusion that's coming up here. Is like hearing this, like, yo, God, like, man, you are the one that dictates it. Like, only by your power, as you're saying, can we push back our enemies. Only in your name can we trample our foes. I do not trust my bow. Which doesn't make, like, the whole point of you having a weapon is it's your effort.
And with especially archery, like that's a very specific. You have to be very intentional with it and put trust in your bow,
skills and your bow,
so that you hit what you want.
Right. Well, and you have to know your bow. And those of you who maybe have been listening to the Epic Saga, I know, Tom, you're one of them. The latest thing was like talking about the challenge on the challenge for these suitors to try and win over the wife, Penelope, was to string Odysseus's bow, which was an impossible feat. It was made out of a certain wood that was just next to impossible to bend. But then the next step was to then shoot an arrow from that bow through 12 axes, which also is a very difficult feat for any form of archer, period. Like, it's customized. It's something that you train. It's something that you do. In training for archery, we tell kids, you need to start at this level, and then you can graduate to a stronger draw strength. And because that draw strength is going to propel that arrow in a different way, and you're going to have to learn how to hold, how to aim proper, and all that. It's all personal development effort. But here, we're told, don't trust in that. Like, I do not trust in my bow. I do not count on my sword to save me. Again, very intentional. Yeah. It's skill, it's focus, it's training. You are the one who gives us victory over our enemies. You disgrace those who hate us. Like that, usually warfare is a trash talk. And you see it at different times in the Bible where kings who defeated other kings, they put their foot on their neck, which was actually a full humiliation and full of like, no, you're like worse than dead right now. It was definitely a strength struggle. But verse 8, oh God, We give glory to you all day long and constantly praise your name.
Yeah. And it's not to say that we should not have skills and practice that kind of thing or whatever, but ultimately is that God's the one that brings us the victory, right?
Yeah.
We're not just supposed to sit on our butts and not do anything.
That's right. That's right. And that's part of the process in this where...
What?
This has been this was the part that really hit me. Oh yes, thank you, Solomon. I will hydrate because I do a lot of talking. I ran out of coffee now.
You do a lot of talking.
I do a lot. Wow.
They say that girls say more words per day than men.
I might give
That's
them
not
a
true.
run for
Not-
the money.
not
I'm
our
just saying,
relationship.
Not the way that we're going about. I don't think I've got. Oh, I do have a little bit of coffee. You know
Oh.
what? We're gonna proper coffee.
Not an advertisement for Giddy Goblin at all.
We see you, Straw Hat Gamer. We see you, Ninja. We see you, Gilded Jedi. Rep the team. Rep the team. Hydration across the bald and proud Nate. What are you trying to say about my wife being bald? Oh, snap. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Okay. Do you know what's funny? You know our 10th anniversary picture when I had like short hair because
Yo, that was...
okay, no.
yeah.
No, what was funny was the other day our 6-year-old daughter came in. She's like, "Mommy, you and Dad are matching." And I'm like, "In your picture." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, you're both bald."
Wasn't the smoothest move on
I
our
had pretty
daughter's
short
end,
hair,
but you
I've
know,
had struggles
that's...
with, as I said last week, I struggled with hair pulling and whatnot. So at one point, I shaved it all off because that was a lot easier to deal with. And so it just so happened that it was our 10th anniversary at that time. Around that time.
I was not trying to make a jab.
I know.
trying
It's
to
just
be
funny. I just think it's hilarious. I mean, I'm the mouse of babes, right? Like,
Yeah.
no filter. She's like, "Yeah, you're matching in your wedding picture where you both have long hair, and you're matching in this one where you both are bald." Awesome.
It's true. It's true. I'm sorry. I'm
It's
not
okay.
trying to-
I love you. I'm just messing with you.
To be fair, technically, Wilson, you're not bald. You clearly have hair. Granted, not a lot. And the Welsh unite.
That's from Scottish.
That's
but
the Scottish,
still,
but you know,
it's
we're
part of
working.
it too.
That was okay. Refocusing.
That's amazing.
But I wanted to bring up like 6, 7, 6 and 7 particularly. Is the kick for me. Because I have been trusting in my own bow. I've been trusting in my own strength to use my sword. And even honoring in that. And you guys have been along on this journey. You guys have been seeing me, like, Ecclesiastes was a big butt kick on that one too, on like the reminder of what's the point of all the effort when it's gonna go to someone else. Well, really, the effort is the things that last are the investment in the people around me and my investment in God. Those are the things that have a lasting impact, that have a legacy. And I need to... yeah. So cheerful. Indeed, Solomon. Ecclesiastes is just a big ball of sunshine. But I try and make victory on my own terms. And the hard thing is my standard is, like, still pretty high. I've had lots of people comment.
It's
like, not just...
impossible.
Yeah. I've had Coach comment. I've had even Colin comment. And
We are often hard on ourselves. Like, it's so easy to do because we know our weaknesses more than anybody else.
yeah. But I'm still reminded in this and in other passages where it's like, are you really leaning on God? And I get that later on they're complaining. They're like, yeah, but like, God, we've done that. And now what's the deal? Like, what's the profit on it? And really, I can do that too. I can be like, God, I'm supposed to be able to rest, but when I rest, things seem to not go smoothly, or things feel like they're going out of chaos. But am I really trusting and relying? Yo, Nuggets, welcome.
But often too, like we say, oh, if it's not one thing, it's another. Because it feels like and it's feeling, it's very much feeling based, that things are going well, we're in a good spot, and we often take credit for it ourselves. And then stuff happens, car expenses come up, even health stuff sometimes, and it's like, really, like, but it's cool with our brains that if we're, how they work, that if we're looking for the negative things, we're gonna find it. And I'm not in the whole, oh, look for positivity nonsense, because it's not sensical. But there is something to be said about it, and it is scripturally based. Like, think upon these things, whatever's positive, whatever's true, what is good, pure. Yeah. But yes, you're hard on yourself, and I think there's a lot more pressure on you for that in our relationship, because you're the one who's doing the, like, I work a little bit, but you're doing the majority of the work. You're the husband, you're the dad, you're providing for and taking care of us, and have 3 other people basically solely dependent on you. And so it is easy for you to take that on and to trust in your own strength and your own ability. And so then when it does not work as you expect, for you to beat yourself up. And something that we've been working on with the kids, especially Mark, he tends to get in his own headspace and worry about stuff. And I say to him, he's like, well, what if this happens? Or he spirals. And that's something that I do. And so I'm able to recognize it more immediately with him and address it, which is kind of one of the cool things about parenting, is that you see your weaknesses in your children, and so then you can speak into them at an earlier age so that they can hopefully be better off than you are at your age. But I say to him, well, we've got God, we've got each other, and everything else to fall into place. Yeah. And that's not just a reminder for him, it's a reminder for myself as well.
Yeah. Which is fair. Like, that's totally understandable. But it's still a lesson to be worked through. It's still a thing each day.
1%.
Yeah. And that feels like the hard 1% to really work through. It's just the, like, I need to give my efforts at the end of the day, give it to God, and even if I don't see the victory on this end, like Psalm 44, by all means, when you read that, you go, well, no, maybe I need to do it on my own. Because, like, even if I do it the way that biblically we're supposed to, like, we're supposed to give full energy, full strength, full effort to God, right? And, like, he's the one who's going to save us. He's the one who's going to fight for us. And then he doesn't. Like,
or not how we expect, or when we expect.
Well, like, let's read through 9 through 16.
Do you want to read that?
Yeah, I'll read it.
Well, you've been
reading. Or you want it? Okay.
But now you have tossed us aside in dishonor. You no longer lead our armies to battle. You make us retreat from our enemies and allow those who hate us to plunder our land. You have butchered us like sheep and scattered us among the nations. You sold your precious people for a pittance, making nothing on the sale. You let our neighbors mock us. We are an object of scorn and derision to those around us. You have made us the butt of their jokes. They shake their heads at us in scorn. We can't escape the constant humiliation. Shame is written across our faces. All we hear are the taunts of our mockers. All we see are our vengeful enemies. Humiliation kind of stands out to me. That's something.
Why does it?
Well, because I think humility and humiliation, like, they have the similar route, like, or root or whatever, but the difference is attitude and your heart. Because just some background for us, due to personal choices and mistakes that I've made with our finances in the past, we have had to borrow money from my parents, and that's been a very humbling experience. And, like, so I've been cleaning their houses for, well, my parents' house and my sister's as well, to make money to help pay off debt faster. And I was like literally scrubbing toilets, and I'm like, God, this is just so humiliating. I'm an adult in my own family who's supposed to be independent, and here I am doing literally a crappy job, like doing something completely crappy because of my mistakes. This is so humiliating. And God's like, is it, or is it humbling? And that just hit me, because I'm like, okay, yep, this is not about my pride. This is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to do something for our family.
Yeah.
So that's been a head check for me lately, and a heart check too. That's the difference between humility and humiliation, or whatever. Like, being humble and
Yeah.
humiliated is your heart.
Well, I read this and maybe I got a different light on it, on that. Like, for me, reading this is all stuff that is meant for people that have chosen to go against God.
Yeah.
Like, we've read this, that this should be stuff that's going on for the wicked, right? This is the stuff that people who choose to go against God, people who choose to be like, I'll just do my own thing, or people that choose to do evil toward other people. Even it makes sense for that. But like, we go from honoring, respecting, and understanding. So you almost, as a reader, you're like, oh man, like, they screwed up, didn't they? Like, they chose a bad thing. You're kind of doing the retribution calculation, is what I like to think of it as. And by retribution, I mean, like, it's almost like karma, kind of like idea. Retribution is just like another way of saying karma, in that, like, they deserve this, right? Or we all know what
Karma is.
I'm now confused.
Karma's a...
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
Karma's not nice word. ... Read between lines, people. Boo the wicked. I bet they are a milk first and a cup of tea kind of people.
Oh, why would you do that? That ruins it.
I would not know, but
That ruins
good
it.
connection, people. You understood. You understood.
Why would
what
you do
was...
that? That's not the way you do it.
I don't know.
Dishonor.
I don't put milk in my
Dishonor
tea. First
upon
off, but
your family, upon your
dishonor
cow.
on you, dishonor on your cow, dishonor
Thank
on
you.
your... That I understood. Mushu references, absolutely. I get that. But like, you're anticipating that, right? Like, you're anticipating that things, and I find it interesting that it's after the break, right? The reflection of how things should be, and then the present, and you're just
How
kind of
things
like,
were in the past, and now, like, well, this is not our present circumstances.
right? You're just kind of like,
Okay. Yeah.
oh,
Well, how often do we do that too? Where, for us, like, it was our history with struggles financially, or with vehicles, or whatever, and God's provided in phenomenal
huge.
ways.
Yeah, even
More
this
than-
week has done
and
stuff.
you're like, oh, this is amazing, and so then something comes up, and you're like, awesome, God's got this,
Oh.
and then it does not happen. It either does not happen the way that you expect it, the way that you want it to happen, or it doesn't happen when you want it to happen, or when you even need it to happen.
Yeah, and that's fair.
And my first impression when we were reading through this is like, how much of those consequences, well, how much, like, those circumstances or whatever, are actually like a delayed consequence for previous actions. Because God has been so gracious to his people and let them get away with so much crap, so much, like, misbehavior, I guess you could say it in some ways. And of course there's going to be consequences, and it might not be immediate. And so even, like, he sent prophets to say, okay, in this amount of time, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And then people are like, yeah, whatever. And then it happens, and they're like, what's going on? Like, why is this happening?
Right. Well, and it's still the orchestrated, like, God has control over all things, right? The sovereignty of God. Yeah. And that can be hard, right? Because, hi, Canada, there's been a lot of stuff that we have not been liking seeing on a political level, but like amongst other things. And you can go like, so God's in control, but why is he letting that happen? Like, why is this okay? And so you're always at odds with like God's control, and then just sometimes the bad choices of other people. And just right. And but like, this is the thing, there's no mentioning of the wicked here. Like in all of this, I'm anticipating that, well, it's the wicked that are doing this. It's nothing that's being said here.
Gamers say life is
crap, Christ is hope.
Yeah,
that's the nicer version of what he says.
I know.
But it's the truth. And here, like, here's the response in either way, right? Because like later on, verses 17 and 22, it's our response, right? All this has happened, though we have not forgotten you. So they're doing self-reflection here. And that's what David was doing earlier, right? David was able to do some self-reflection. And it goes, so this bad thing is happening. Okay, so let's do self-check first before we start really harping on God and going like, well, you just don't care. You just don't love. It's like, okay, so all this happened, though we have not forgotten you. We have not violated your covenant. Okay, so two pretty strong arguments. We haven't done wrong right now. Our hearts have not deserted you. There we go. Apparently I'm messing up touching things. Our hearts have not deserted you. We have not strayed from your path. Yet you have crushed us in the jackal's desert home. You have covered us with darkness and death. These are the fates of the wicked. This is the, like, I will deal with evil kind of process. If we had forgotten your name, if we had forgotten the name of our God, or spread our hands in prayer to foreign gods, God would surely have known it. For he knows the secrets of every heart. But for your sake, we are killed every day. We are being slaughtered like sheep. Like, they feel like they are the sacrifice. But it's interesting that it goes to a sacrificial language there, right? Like, it's almost like if there was evil, then yes, we would be the sacrifice on that case. To make things right, there has to be a right? And you see that sacrificial language system kind of popping in there. But that's not the case. But they're almost seeing it like, well, is this then the thing? Is this the sacrifice that's needed to be happening to finally end on like 23 to 26? Wake up, O Lord. Why do you sleep? Get up. Do not reject us forever. Why do you look the other way? Why do you ignore our suffering and oppression? We collapse in the dust, lying face down in the dirt. Oh, so like that right there is like Adam language. That's like Genesis 3 language. Yeah. From dust you were, to dust you will return. Like, it's just, I'm completely and utterly destroyed. Rise up, help us, ransom us because of your unfailing love.
How often do we try to justify circumstances that happen? Right? When things are awful and horrible and, life just happens and it's out of our control, and we try to figure out, okay, what did I do to deserve this?
Oh,
and I'm like, well, often we don't deserve it. There's often evil that happens in life that we do not deserve, but the flip side of it is we often don't get what we deserve because of God's unfailing love, because of the grace.
Yeah.
And I think we forget that. We take that for granted, take advantage of it. And somewhere in the New Testament talks about, should I keep on sinning then?
Yeah, Paul's call out on that. Yeah,
God's grace is always there. Shall I just keep on sinning? No. Like, that's taking advantage of it. That's abusing that grace. But there's the flip side of it, right? Like, it's so hard. I don't have answers. Oh, and that's how Psalms are, and that's why some people do not like them.
But again, I don't think it's your job to have an answer.
No.
And I think we do a disservice sometimes as Christians, as people who are able to give advice. And I'm saying this more after doing, I had some training on Wednesday, hence why I wasn't on Wednesday. But had some training on supervision. We were talking about coaching. And one of the best things that you can do in coaching is you don't give answers. because coaching in itself is not about giving answers. Coaching is about helping the person process what's going on, and they figure out a pathway for them to go through it. You're almost like a processor, right? Like processors for a computer helps you just to go through the system. It's not necessarily giving the answer. It's just, it gives the process, it makes it run faster, able to be more effective to meet the problem that's at hand. And I think we are, our culture tends to be pretty bad on that. Don't mind that. That was YFC Mama just saying hi. I think we are bad that we feel like, well, we should have answers. We should have the solutions.
As Christians.
That's what I'm saying. Especially as Christians, we have the ultimate solution, the ultimate answer, who is Jesus. And so then that's why Sunday school answers are very much a thing amongst the Christian cultures. Like, oh, but Jesus just loves, and Jesus
and it's so
does
hard
this.
Because it's true. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, the answer is Christ. Because there's no hope otherwise. There isn't. Scripture makes it very black and white. But our human brains and our hearts, we want to help other people. So when our friends or family or anybody we know in the world is suffering, we want to be like, oh, well, this is why. Here's why. Here's the justification. This is why this is going on. This is why you're going through it. But that's not how it works.
No.
And I think as Christians and as the church as a whole has done a real disservice to the world by making people think that when they turn to Christ, when they choose to follow Christ, that life will be better.
Because it will be, but it's not in the way that they think it's going to be.
Eternally, yes.
Eternally, well, and even... Okay.
To some extent, yes.
So I want to challenge that a little. I want to challenge that a little. Because I get where you're coming from on that. It's not all of a sudden sunshine and roses. You're walking through and you just like pops and rainbows and everything. That's like, it's not that. Life doesn't all of a sudden turn into a musical and a happy, lollipop guild shows up and stuff like that. You don't have a yellow brick road. But it does get better in that you have a God that does not give up on you.
Yeah, there's that.
There's hope. And the hard thing is, though, it's a hope that you have to learn to sit in each and every day, to pursue in each and every day, to be vulnerable for each and every day. And that takes discipline. That takes effort. That takes counting the costs of things that you have in your life.
And I guess,
and evaluating that.
It's that we tell people, or other people assume, I don't know which one it is, sometimes a bit of both, one or the other, that it'll be easier.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the thing, that's the problem. That's what's dangerous and detrimental and damaging. Look,
they didn't listen to Jesus. That's all I'm saying.
Right, because he promises good things. Yes, absolutely. Blessings and even financial blessings in some ways too, but he also says that there will be troubles, there will be trials, that people will go through the same thing or worse sometimes than not worse, but things, bad things, just like he did, that they will suffer as he says it. He doesn't say it's going to be easy.
No,
because we view life's trials as awful and horrible rather than seeing them as character defining. And I don't know, I'm preaching to myself here too.
No, you got it. But that's a legitimate.
I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm trying to get to the point here, but it's a frustration of mine because I have had friends who have assumed that life would be easy when they became a Christian, and then their life did not magically get better or easier, and their circumstances still sucked, and they still were having struggled at home or abusive parents or whatever, and they're like, well, then there's no point.
Yeah.
And so they've walked away from their faith.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I just want to shake them and be like, no, this is not biblically sound knowledge. And that's the thing. If you're not in scripture, if you're not... No, because like at my study we were talking about how God is truth. And getting to know his truth is both by spending time in his word and getting to know him, like spending time with him.
Yeah.
And I think we often miss out on that.
Yeah. Yeah, we can often miss out on that. And so, no, it's good. Because there has to be something that we're taking out of this, right? There's a reason why it's sitting on it. And maybe it is to feel just uncomfortable. On the, like, I don't know the perfect scenario on this. Maybe it's, guys, we have to sit on, we don't have an answer on how to resolve
And
Psalm
it's okay
44.
to not have answers.
Oh, yes, thank you. Not just sitting, stretching. Thank you, Solomon. I needed that. Oh, that actually helped. My back almost cracked a little bit. I was hoping Nuggets would see that because Nuggets, you're going to be seeing more of that stuff popping up on your stream. So that is a very visual reminder of things for you to do.
I think as Christians we have to get comfortable with not having it figured out, with not having the answers, with being with people in their grief, in their discomfort, and being okay with being uncomfortable, because we want to solve things. We want to prove that following Christ is the right thing to do, or the better thing to do, or whatever. And people who are hurting, we know this ourselves, when we are hurting, we don't want the solutions necessarily. We don't want to be told it's all going to work out. Like, yes, we maybe want it, but we don't want it if it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want people to lie to us and sugarcoat it and be like, oh, it's all going to be okay. And like I said that to you through some of the stressors too, that it's going to be okay. And I'm not saying it in a, oh, it's going to be okay. It's like, no, Mike, it's going to be okay. Because we've experienced it. And so that's the beauty of relationship, is that you can kind of balance it out and be there for each other. But being okay with being uncomfortable and getting down in the dirt with them and crying with them and supporting them and being vulnerable and comforting them because we are comforted by Christ.
And I think it can be us justifying why did we make the decision in the first place. Kind of like what you said, how your friends thought, oh, well, if I follow God, this is going to be the result, things are going to be better.
What's the hard part?
And even when us, a couple in ministry who are pouring into other people and saying, it is the better choice, it is the thing that's going to count for in the difference, we can still go like, okay, God, we're saying this for you. And we're not saying it just to be like, oh, so like give us that raise spiritually or stuff like that. But like, you can even go, God, I promised this for them. Why aren't you even meeting me on that? Like, why are you not even? Yeah, I see. I've got. We can get into that zone pretty quick, and we can get into like, well, then God, like, what's right? But again, we don't have the answer.
No.
We're putting God in a box. We're trying to figure out God's moves before He even tells us. Why do we try and do that?
Yeah, I've got something to say about that. But do you want to read
Yeah.
the quote?
So Solomon's throwing down some more wisdom. All y'all, you see the wonderful paragraph. That one, there, that one. But I'll read it. One of my favorite quotes about Jesus. Jesus doesn't give an explanation for the pain and sorrow of the world. He comes where the pain is most acute and takes it upon himself. Jesus doesn't explain why there is suffering, illness, and death in the world. He brings healing and hope. He doesn't allow the problem of evil to be the subject of a seminar. He allows evil to do its worst to him. He exalts it. He exhausts it. Not exalts it. That would be weird. He exhausts it, drains its power, and emerges with new life. NT right.
Solid.
NT absolute right is really what that.
Absolutely
No,
right.
that's a fair call. That's good wisdom, Solomon. Throw that at me, and then I'll throw it into your quotes.
Something I was talking about with Ricky and before when we were out. It was how often I default, or when I'm around family or other friends or whatever it is, whatever in certain circumstances, where it seems like I regress back to how I used to be, and I'm like, wait, what? I've worked through this. Why am I regressing? Why, like, I made this progress. I know I've grown, but like, why is this happening? Why am I reacting this way to it again? like, I worked through this, haven't I? And she made a comment about how if there's something we're struggling with, something we're working through and growing in, of course it's going to come up again, because it's something that God's refining. And so what's stuck in my head is refining, not regressing. Because it can be so discouraging. Like I was saying to Mike last night, I've been doing really well this last 17 days or whatever, of consistently spending time with God and taking better care of myself and establishing better habits, which has been really, really good. But in the back of my mind, I'm afraid. I'm afraid because I don't know, it's my depression, or I can excuse it as my depression, but I often do well for a couple weeks, 3 weeks, a month, maybe 6 weeks at most, and then it seems like I regress. I go back, and those healthy habits are not as strongly established as I thought they were, or I quote unquote screw up, make mistakes, stumble, fall. And so I'm terrified that it's going to happen. And I was even talking to my sister about it, and she's like, don't think that. And of course, typical Laura logic, I get what she's saying, but my struggle is, well, that's how I feel. But I do agree with her, like, don't allow myself to think that. When that comes up, take that thought captive, which scripture talks about, and it's cognitive behavioral therapy 101. It's like, no, you have to I visualize myself grabbing and tackling it, and like Christ helping with that, kicking its butt. I'm like, no, you are going to submit to Christ, because this is not right. But I don't really know where it's going with that.
Don't mess with Coach. You see that? See how that came out? Don't mess with Coach. Coach doesn't just call the plays; she makes the plays. No, but like not to lightheart or stuff, but like that's a legit thing, and that's been a struggle for me over the past bit. Has been what are the words that I'm allowing to sit in my head, to call me out, to do the sucky things, like it browbeats. And I need to remind myself that when it comes to that kind of stuff, God is absolutely right ticked on those. It's my own brokenness. It could be a spiritual attack as well. There's like lots of things that can be tied to it, but God does not want that for us, for me. And so what can I do about it? I got to go to someone who's stronger, and that stronger one is God. Or that stronger one is talking to Coach on where I'm at, and she affirms me to the point where the other day I started having a stress moment, and we were sitting on the couch, and Coach looks over at our daughter and says, Hannah, tell Daddy what you have to say it, like tell Daddy,
because you're saying, well, what if I'm messing up, what
if I'm messing up our family, what if I'm making bad choices, and
I'm like, Hannah, tell Daddy he's not. And she's like, Daddy, you're not. You need to relax. You need to let your heart rest.
Yeah. And like...
Yeah, that's my girl.
Like, she was right on there, and it was awesome.
She's like, you need to trust God, Daddy.
Oh, yeah. And she's like, shoot. And so, like, it's taking those moments where we can be a support for one another, but also realizing there's an even bigger support in Christ.
And even in that moment, like... I saw it as, okay, this is an awesome opportunity as a mom to teach my daughter how to support her future spouse.
Yeah.
If that's what God has planned, all that, or to support other people in her life in general.
Yeah.
Because even her brother, when he's older and having detrimental thoughts and that kind of stuff, to recognize it and to be encouraging. Because I think, I don't know, that's a whole other can of worms. A whole other Pandora's box, as it were.
But like,
we need to do that more.
Yeah, we need to do that more. And it's about taking that effort to do it. And so off of Psalm 44.
Oh, okay. Sorry. What?
Okay, level up challenge has not changed. And you guys might be like, okay, like I thought there was supposed to be a new change. No. The reason why I'm saying there's no change on the level up challenge, which by the way is Are you sitting in time with God? Are you meeting with him? Are you investing in that time with him and resting in him off of that? Because do that. That's a priority. That's a practice. That's going to be something that's going to help you.
God honors it too.
God honors it. Yeah. And it may not feel like he does. Okay? Psalm 44 is like, I'm doing all the right things. And God, where are you?
And it's not necessarily immediate.
Right. But that, to maintain the practice.
Yeah.
Even when it feels like, God, why am I doing this? Be consistent. Submit that will.
Yeah.
Submit that, like, God, where are you? And be willing to share that, but also be willing to wait.
Yeah.
Be willing to sit, because God is faithful.
Yeah.
He is reliable. He is loving God, like, to the point where it's just amazing the amount, like, of his love, right? It's just mind-blowing, jaw-dropping. Right. Do that.
Something I've been working through is my brain just spirals, and when I'm in that quiet time with God, I often get distracted by other things, and I start worrying about things and wondering, okay, well, if this is the problem, then here's the solution, all this, and just, it's easy to lose focus.
Yeah.
And often my prayer has been, God, help me to surrender fully, wholly, entirely, and completely. And you think those are all the same things, but they are. They're basically the same meaning, but it's just like, no, like, completely letting go of it.
Yeah.
And that's hard, because during trials and times of growing in faith, things do not go as we hope or expect or want or need. And I've seen that with my parents. Like, my parents owned a Christian bookstore for almost 20 years. And there were times where they could not pay their rent. And I remember having this discussion with Mom. And she was saying, she's like, I don't get it. She was struggling with so hard. And seeing her be honest and open with me about that made a huge difference and really grown my faith. But she was like, I don't get it. Like, God's provided for us and we're doing this full-time ministry for him. But rent is due and we don't have it. And so it took a lot of humility to go to their landlords, who were Christians, thankfully, who were very gracious and gave them like a couple months break on rent to pay it back later when they're expecting and to come up with a payment plan without interest, which was phenomenal. But just that point, okay, sometimes things do not go as we expect. Often things don't go as we expect. And we need to be willing to humble ourselves, get over our own ways, so that God's way is more abundantly clear.
Yeah. Good word.
Now the Thermosera is over.
No, that's good. That's good. Let her cook.
People
Let her
think
cook,
he's
right?
the one that preaches all the time, but
we trade off. I like it.
this is easier because I can't see the people, so I don't get the stage right.
That's also the cheat code there. That's a little bit.
That's really why I like it.
Okay, so we've done our level up. We've done our call out encouragement. So now's our prayer time. You guys are going to notice, if you are on the stream, down below, you can actually use your GW tokens, your graphic word points, as it were. There is now a new feature. Yes,
Ooh.
your support has arrived. And essentially what you are doing is you can type in a response, and that's where you can throw down your prayer requests. That's where you can share that, and we'll be praying for that. So we'll be able to see that, and we'll know, and that's an encouragement. Then we wanted a visual show that we see it, and that we are going to be praying for it. Because that can be sometimes a hard thing, that when you bring up a prayer request, that is it noticed? Is it going to be prayed to the void, right?
I would encourage you, just a side note, if you see somebody else putting in a prayer request, instead of just automatically redeeming that token or whatever and saying, oh yeah, I'm praying for you, to actually do it. Because life gets busy, and that's something I've been working on. When people have asked me for a prayer to like immediately
do the prayer
do
right
it
then and
then.
there. Because if it's that important for you, yes, graphic word is becoming a little bit more
Hey,
and more.
we're
1%, 1% each time. That's the thing. Oh, so proud. Oh, you okay? Make it be bashful. Stop it.
Aw.
But this is where that's part of the community, and this is where if you have a prayer request, throw it down in our chat. But also, if you are part of our Discord community, as Solomon shared before, as he'll likely share again, we have that community for you. We have it on Discord for you to have that kind of prayer. Because some of us have really hit lows. And I've heard different stories,
Right.
not just on me talking to people, but like some of our awesome guys like Nuggets or some of our other co-leaders that are hearing from other people on our Discord and just checking in and be like, yo, how are things going? And people being brutally honest. And so then we can actually pray.
Yeah, our world is isolated enough.
Right.
Let's not let our pride stand in the way of connecting.
That's right.
I'm speaking to myself as well.
But it's important.
Because my instinct very much is to withdraw when I am not doing well. And so that's the beauty of Discord. Because you can stay fairly anonymous.
And we gotta get you on Discord.
Absolutely. Because
Vote for Coach to get on Discord.
I want to do a women's group.
Yes, we talked about that last
Yep,
week.
but specifically, I'm looking into this book by Lisa Pevere called Girls with Swords, which I'm really excited about because it's talking about getting into scripture and knowing it well. Because I think, sadly, a lot of women do not know scripture well enough. And they do not have very theologically sound views. And so I think that's important.
It's like girls who have no swords.
Right, because
They don't have bite
what
to them.
good are
Like
they going
what-
to do in a fight if they have no weapon?
FYI, guys, Coach watched on the weekend Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim, and the princess in that one definitely, like, this would be like the example. Anywho, so we've had some time to be able to throw down any prayer support quests or prayer requests or stuff like that. I'm just going to dive into prayer. So I hope that you would join with me and Coach as we bring different concerns to God. So no, it's okay. It's okay. We're good. You sure? You coming?
Yes. I'm not habitual at all.
Oh boy. Father God, I thank you for Psalm 44. Even though it ends on a very non-answered and very pessimistic mindset, God, ultimately, we need to sometimes face that reality. You don't have an answer, and you're not a God that A plus B equals C. You're not a tame God, is what comes to mind. And that's like C.S. Lewis's how Aslan was not a tame lion. And that's awesome and scary all at the same time. It's awesome because it shows your power, shows you have your own reasonings, your own tactics, your own ways of going about things. And God, what's the point of us trying to figure you out? That's not, like, we're not here to manipulate you. You're not a genie in a bottle. You're not a vending machine. You are an all-supreme being who each day gives us grace to be able to sit here, to even talk, to be able to breathe, to even function. The world literally turns because you allow it to turn. But God, that sometimes comes with hard things that hit us. Where we feel like, God, we are doing the right things. We are meeting and praying and spending that time with you. We are putting all our effort into the right things. We are loving on other people. And yet this, that, and the other, the negative stuff that hits us, still hits us. And so it can feel like, God, are you even there? Are you even awake? Are you even paying attention? But again, not that I'm saying you do that to just get our attention. so that we have to come to you, that we come to you. But like, that's a good response, that we would come to you, even. Because we could just go, well, why would I believe this? Why would I even care about this if God doesn't show up at my beck and call, or just doesn't make things happen? God, help us in changing our hearts on that. Help us to change our minds. Help us to bear with one another, that when things are difficult, we could share that even we can be the instruments of your grace, of your support. So God, I want to thank a couple of people that have been doing that this week. I want to thank Heather, who she was already planning on loving on us and blessing us this week. But then even hearing just some stuff that we've been working through this week, she's like, oh, well, that makes sense then. And just is blessing our family and loving on us like a sister. I want to thank Solomon, who's just constantly an encouragement and a support for us, and has heard us even in the midst of his stuff with chemo and just getting wrecked. But God, thank you for even the comment yesterday. Solomon, thank you for your comment yesterday on what helps you keep perspective, to hold on, because really that was a big encouragement for me last night. Thank you for Coach, who's been an encouragement in the midst of her even working through some stuff. Thank you that I've got an awesome partner who even joins on stuff like this and is able to pour out insight and love and care for people she will have never have seen, never have heard, but still has a heart to pour out to you and share that with other people. God, I pray with Solomon right now and his chemo treatments and how it just absolutely tuckers him out, like just like wins him, drains him. God, I pray for your strength to show up in those times. I pray for the right words to hit. I pray for those many miracles that to some would just think, oh, well, that's nothing. But for Solomon, it's like, wow, God is there. God is speaking. God is loving. God, I pray for my dad and his heart stuff that's going on. And I pray for many miracles there. For some light at the end of this, what can be very depressing, very upsetting tunnel. I thank you for his resolve, that his eyes are on you. And God, I thank you for this community that's praying for him. God, I thank you for this community that's been around me and Coach and praying for our family. I thank you for everyone that's on the stream, who has been on the stream, who has heard us and clicked past us. God, I just pray that you would be with them. And God, I specifically, I'm praying for Azrael and his wife. They had an interview yesterday for an awesome position that would have them both working together and being group home parents, which is so cool. And they're so excited. And they had a 2-hour interview, and it was just laughing and encouraging and supportive, and this job would cover their needs and then give them some breather room after a period of being laid off for a month and a half. God bless them. I pray that that would be an opportunity, and part of the draw for them is that they are a couple, and I see this as, God, that's your way of showing your love to a whole bunch of kids who have felt abandoned, who have felt alone, who have felt broken.
So much light in such a dark place.
Yeah.
Such hope in that brokenness.
So God, I pray that that opportunity would come through. And that would just keep on cementing their walk with you. And not that it's all about sunshine roses, but that they're going to walk through some really difficult stuff. And they're going to need to be the support for each other and lean on you to be the support for each other. And that would be happening. And they would see more of your hand, more of your love toward these kids. And make impacts on individuals because of you. God, I just pray for the rest of our day, that we would honestly take this time and meet with you, whether we are feeling broken, whether we are feeling awesome, whether we are just ho-hum, like just average. Thank you that you meet us in all different ways, at all different times, no matter where we feel or where we're at. The variety of Psalms keeps on showing that. Help us to be faithful to just meet with you, even if it's just 5 minutes chewing on a verse. And even if it's 5 minutes going, God, I don't know where you are at. I need your help. That God, you even honor that kind of stuff. Help us to pursue you and look for you. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Can I just add a side note?
Side note, I'm bawling here.
That's
so
good.
Just...
So I'll do the talking. I love you.
Love you too.
Your comment about 5 minutes on a verse, YouVersion, or I think it's just called the Bible app now.
Here, I'm just gonna bring this so that you're a
Hello.
little... No, you don't have to.
I'm messing with
You don't need
you.
to.
But YouVersion, or the Bible app, which is a free app to download, has a verse of a day. Verse of the day. It's actually called
Refresh.
the Daily Refresh, and I've really been enjoying it. It's not very long. They've got little short, like 2-minute videos to go within a little devotional, and it's been awesome how I know they often go along a theme, but it's been really cool how the verses often connect to the other devotional I'm doing and to things that my other Bible studies, and it's cool. Like, I'm not going to say that every time that verse is there that it's going to be monumental and that God's going to speak through it, but it is God's word. It is alive, and it's a sword, so it cuts through stuff, and it's a great way of getting just a little perspective and a little, like, literally a refresh, so that you've got that break in your day.
It's good for noobs and for vets. That's what I'd say. So if you're like, oh well, I'm new to faith, so I don't think it's like, give it a shot.
Matter.
Just do it. If you're old to faith and you're like, I feel like I don't have the energy, I don't feel refreshed, legitimately, just do that. And even if you don't find the verse as much hitting, go through the whole process, because there's a video chat where someone talks through the verse a bit of it. There's a prayer dialogue where you are then kind of doing some self-reflective prayer. But then I take it and go, if you still don't even have something after all that, which is totally fine, then try reading the chapter.
It's not about our feelings as
It's
well.
not about our feelings, but it's the reflection. But legitimately, take oh my word, Solomon. Okay. But take the verse and don't just read the verse, but then read the chapter. Or don't just read the few verses, but read the chapter, because A, you're going to get the context. B, there might be something out of that context that you're like, oh shoot, like I never thought of it that way, or I never realized how it ties to that, and God might speak out of that. Take that opportunity.
Something I do actually is I use my iPad and I take screenshots, and then I open them up in Good Notes, and then I can write my own thoughts and stuff on it.
Because some of us like to doodle, draw, circle, underline.
Doodle a little bit.
It's okay. That's why you have a cool Bible that has the space to
really
do said
cool.
things. But yes, and so thank you, Solomon, for throwing the link
Context,
for donating for what we do and stuff like
linguistic
that. But
and
yes,
historical, and that's such
it's
a big
all
thing.
context, and it's diving into it.
Nothing bothers us more than verses being taken in context and
particularly this guy does not like it
incorrectly.
Coach has seen me fuming when someone
well,
doesn't.
even my dad, like, he always brings his, like, old school, like, his own study Bible to church every time, because he will go, I see him, like,
Spies
flipping.
could take some lessons on how
He's amazing.
the
I've
amount
got
of
so much respect
linkage
for him.
notes follow through stuff like I thought I marked up my Bible. It's okay, I got nada on my father-in-law.
And you see him, like, during the service, like flipping back and forth and, like, kind of tilting his head, being like, kind of like, you can see his brain, like, thinking and processing, and then flips back. Then it depends how many times he does it. As a kid, we would know, it's going to be a long discussion at lunch today about the sermon. But
that's what it's there for.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Anywho, guys,
this has been awesome.
This has been a pretty big stream, but this is good.
I thoroughly enjoy it.
That's good.
It's really cool. I look forward to it.
Lots of good steak to chew on today. Yeah, be sure to follow us. And again, no pressure that if this has been a benefit, we do look for opportunity for people to partner with us financially. And monthly specifically helps us for consistency and longevity in what we're doing. Not that you can't donate via like here on the stream. I will just tell you right now, you do not get a tax receipt when you donate here on the stream.
So if you
Sad story.
would like the charitable receipt, then doing that would be
going to qIU.ca/donate and then specifically put it to graphic word if you want it for the ministry, and if you want to taxes.
Yeah. I mean, it gives you a little bit of a benefit.
It does give you a bit of a benefit.
Being the one that does our tax returns, like, it does help.
She knows numbers.
It's not significant enough that it's make or break.
No.
But it can help, and you've got a certain limit, and so if you're under your limit, then sure, why not? And it has to be over
$20.
like $20 Canadian or above for like the year.
Yeah. But
for it to get a tax receipt.
So, but if you want to support us directly, like us making sure we manja, you can
Wilson crew.
You can do that at the qIU.ca/donate, and there you can set up monthly how you're giving, how you're supporting that does support, and you could even put that under Mike Wilson deputization. We use a fancy word for that.
For those old school ones out there who think tithing just needs to be to the church, I would challenge you in that and to look into that, because that's been something that I've worked through as well.
Oh yes, we've had a conversation on this or two, but again, not pressure.
No,
we are here.
We would love to talk to you about it. That's something
we get to bless and have an opportunity to be able to share this, like, legitimately. Solomon, the more conversations we've had on our stream, or like any of our other crew, like Central has been coming on a little bit more, and now we're talking. We're doing some talks with Central potentially on some ideas.
Ooh.
So we're gonna see how that goes. But if you love on this ministry, that's definitely one way, and it's gonna keep us going, keeps Nuggets going, and keeps us keeps us going.
Also,
last note, we gotta really end it, because otherwise we're dragging.
But this last thing, I'm thinking of joining Discord, but I'm completely clueless as to what kind of username to use. So if you have any suggestions, drop them in the chat.
I think it needs to be Coach.
Something with Coach. Oracle. Something. I don't know. I could ask ChatGPT.
The Oracle Coach.
Nah.
The coaching Oracle.
Nah.
What? Oh. Okay, guys, put in the lobby. Put some names out there. I will then put it on a poll. We will all vote, and then we will throw it for a coach's name.
Okay.
But she has to approve the names. So she'll read through the names that she likes,
yeah,
and then it will be polled.
If you have your suggestions, we'll do a poll in the lobby, and then I might even do one on Instagram too.
Okay. And then I'll throw the Mike approves ones for the ones that Coach approves, so that we can then work on getting her Discord account.
Okay.
So the faster we get on that, the better. Because then we can have Coach on.
Now,
okay.
I talk too much, apparently.
No, you don't talk to... That's not what I'm saying, guys. You heard me. That's not what I was saying. Anywho, guys, we are over time, but that's awesome. It's been great. It's been fantastic to be able to have prayer and be able to work this out and do this together. Again, tune in Tuesday next week for Psalm 45. Oh yeah, Psalm 45. It's gonna be good. Hope you have an awesome weekend. Get lots of rest. I'm looking at you, Solomon. Get rest, okay?
Yes, you need to rest.
It's great that you get to watch our content, but rest also.
Coach's orders.
Coach's orders. Look at that face. It's too friendly right now. She needs to like put her.
I can't.
Oh, dude, she got serious. Watch it. All right. All that to say, adios, crew. See you next week.